A jet plane called the Elizabeth and an Elizabethan dramatist have brought two of the leading figures in the film world to Oxford.
Having appeared on stage with Taylor in Dr. Faustus at Oxford in 1966, Burton returned the following year for the premiere of his film version. The trouble began when one interviewer tried to draw comparisons between Marlowe's morality tale and Burton's career on the stage.
You must at some time, Richard Burton, have faced the question of whether you should have continued as an imposing and, even in the view of many people, great stage actor, or moved into the world of films, which is more commercially rewarding, but perhaps not so rewarding artistically. Do you ever regret having moved into the commercial cinema?
Oh, excuse me, Richard, that makes me so angry, because he has not left the stage. That's absolute bloody rubbish. The last year, he just got through doing a thing here for Oxford on the stage. The year before that, what was he doing on Broadway? That was the stage. How can you say he's left the stage?
Because that is not a continuous stage career in the sense that, for example, Paul Schofield or Laurence Olivier.
He's not continuous either on the stage. He does job appearances, some money.
And
so does Paul Schofield.
But Schofield has made one film in 10 or 14 years. And Richard was at one time hailed as being potentially the greatest stage actor that England ever produced. I wonder whether, in a way, your making of Faustus, which is the story of a man who sells out for a dream almost, is perhaps comparable with your decision then.
Well, I think you might describe Faustus as every man, because he's given the choice, and in this case, the wrong choice. He doesn't have sufficient strength, spiritual strength, to sustain him against the forces of evil. And I think every man is subject to that, regardless of whether he's an alchemist or a great philosopher like Faustus or not. I want to ask Elizabeth Taylor if your irritation then was because you felt that the cinema was not the creative medium that the theatre was. I didn't know why you got so cross.
Because you said the exact phrase that I knew you were working up to, sold out, and it offends me to my soul.
He wanted to do Faustus more than anything. And it, I think, lived to haunt him, because there he is playing Faustus, the man selling his soul to the devil for fame, sex, love, money, importance, power. And she is the one who drags him down to hell in the end, you know, screaming and cackling. And I think it came to sort of resemble his, anyway, secret feeling. Because I think he came to feel that she had ruined him in some way, that he had been diverted.
1968 was a turning point. Burton had his biggest commercial success with Where Eagles Dare, but the two films he made with Taylor were flops. The Burtons were sliding into decline. He was becoming disillusioned and drinking. She was constantly unwell and increasingly dependent on painkillers.
December 31st, 1968. My chief worry for the new year is Elizabeth's health. It is getting no better, and she does maddeningly little to help it. I dread it at night when she's had her shots of drugs and is only semi-articulate. In addition to all this, she is being given cortisone, which apparently bloats you up, and therefore you have to go on a fairly stringent, salt-free diet to combat it. She lasted 2 days on the diet. The most frightening thing is that as a result of Elizabeth's total self-indulgence, when she moans and groans in agony, I simply become bored. I have always been a heavy drinker, but as a result of this half life we're leading, I'm drinking twice as much. I loathe acting. I shudder at the thought of going to work with the same horror as a bank clerk must loathe that stinking, stupid train journey every morning. I loathe it, hate it, despise, for Christ's sake, it.
To make matters worse, by the beginning of the 70s, the Burtons were no longer attracting the large audiences they had grown used to.
A younger generation of film stars had come along. Films that appealed to the youth market had come along, and they were all distractions that took away the fascination with Richard and Elizabeth. So Hollywood, the paymaster, began to lose interest in them.
November 23rd, 1971. Discussed the script which I'd read in the afternoon. It's rubbish, but it's something I've never done, which is a horror film. Can't make up my mind whether I should do it or not. Had a bitter little contretemps with Elizabeth this morning. Ended up by her saying that when I was sober I was a damned pain in the ass and perhaps I should start drinking again. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
By 1973, Burton and Taylor had been together for 11 years, but the marriage, which had also been the key to so much of their success, was at breaking point. Typically, their last film together was another bittersweet love story, but this time made for television.
This is a film about a couple who meet after a divorce, and they suddenly remember their past, and their meeting triggers off all sorts of memories.
You've been trying to get away from me for a long time. Now this is your big opportunity.
No, I haven't. How can you say that?
It's actually quite a subtle and interesting story being told.
Maybe you want to believe that, but it isn't true.
But what it actually became was very superficial.
It's not possible.
I think they were playing out their own lives beyond the call of the script.
Can anyone see what's happening?
Their family life was fragmenting, and whatever happened there was influencing Richard, who I think already had an inclination to the bottle.
You seem to want to remember some fantasy figure.
There were some very worrying days when he just wasn't able to hold his drink. He'd come on set and try to cope with very long dialogue scenes, not be able to remember the lines. We used to have to put cue cards up. On one occasion he really erupted into a sort of paroxysm of anger and swore at me. I mean, literally said, the whole place shook and everybody went, oh my God. And it was awful. I had to walk off. Well, the following day he came back and he was so remorseful, because in the mornings he was always all right. It was in the afternoons. He just came up to me and he sort of put his arms around me and said, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I said, it's all right, Richard, come on, let's go and do it. But then as the day wore on, he started to crumble, and then at one moment he said something that was really... While we were lighting and there was all this going on around him, he suddenly said, oh my God, you know, I could have played Leah.
On July 4th, 1973, the Burton marriage was once again headline news. But this time Elizabeth provided her own scoop. In an extraordinary press statement, she announced to the world that she and Richard were to separate.
One of the things she says in the separation statement is that they were constantly together and in each other's pockets for years, and she had never believed it possible that they could be separated. And this was something she used to say, that they were like the two halves of the scissors joined at the middle, and they would never be separated. And so this was really the beginning of the end, but I think his carousing and drinking was so extreme then. And she had been drinking along to keep up with him, was always my theory. And she created her own addictive problem.
Divorce followed in 1974, then a reconciliation and very public second marriage the following year in Africa. But it was only a temporary fix. And after 4 months they divorced again. By the end of 1976, Burton and Taylor were both married to other people. An American senator, John Warner, became Elizabeth Taylor's 7th husband. Burton, meanwhile, had married Susie Hunt, former wife of racing driver James Hunt. He'd also given up drinking.